Roger Gewolb, American politics is extremely divided. You know Donald Trump, he's a friend of yours. Will this attempted assassination on Donald Trump further divide left versus right in America?
Mark, I think it depends on, and I think the really big question here, after things calm down a bit, is just as with JFK, was this some disgruntled, mad, whatever individual on his own, or is this somebody who is part of a terror group, an insurgent political group, or some other group which the name of which we all know very well? I don't know, it could be any one of a number of groups. In other words, if this is tied back to any large group that represents a grouping of political interests, I think it could very well have implications. If it's a loner, then less so.
Most definitely. How will the American public be receiving this news as they watch this footage play out? Of course, it's depending on where you are in America, it's early on in the day.
I think they'll all be in shock. I think the number of people who will be pleased at this will be relatively small. It's a reflection on America, on our country, on democracy, on free speech. It's just terrible. It is the same as Kennedy. It hasn't happened since 1962.
Indeed, although, of course, Ronald Reagan was shot at as well. No doubt there are plenty of attempted assassinations that get seen off at the pass without us knowing. But why do American politicians get shot at? Why do they seem to be the most vulnerable politicians in the West, at the very least?
I was going to mention Reagan, but I was going to say with it that, of course, Reagan wasn't as divisive as Donald Trump is. So there's a big difference there. That was a nutter. That was not a political assassination attempt. This could very well be some group that picked this person or persons, because we don't know how many other people are still in the crowd. Mark White seemed to be speaking as if it might be one shooter, because that's what he was hearing they were saying. But, I mean, there could be all sorts of people. There could be a whole setup that's in the crowd, or he could be the designated useful idiot that was given the gun to shoot, like from the Texas Book Depository.
Well, indeed. Let me interrupt you, Roger Gewolb. Let me go back to our security editor, Mark White, if we can. And Mark, let me ask you, obviously this is a devastating attack. If you're just joining us, it's just gone 12:30 in the morning here in the UK. And Donald Trump, addressing a rally of supporters in Pennsylvania, has been shot at, and he appears to have been injured, his right ear covered in blood. He's fallen to the ground. His security personnel have sort of surrounded him. He's then got back up to his feet, raised a rather defiant fist in the air, which is very much in the House style of Donald Trump. And you can see the blood not just on his right ear, on the right side of his head, but across his cheek as well. I've got no doubt those images will become rather iconic in the weeks and months ahead. But Mark White, tragically, someone has been shot. There is to death by the looks of it. There is now a fatality. But Donald Trump lives to tell the tale. Does this tell us that perhaps this was not a professional hit job, but an amateur at work?
No, I think it's far too early to try to conclude that. Clearly, shots were fired, and one of those shots did indeed hit former President Trump, grazed him, according to local medical now, and prosecutors said that President Trump was grazed by a bullet. Now, there are also reports quoting the Butler County District Attorney. He is saying former President Trump was grazed by a bullet and that 2 individuals are dead, including, according to Butler County District Attorney, who's been quoted in a number of media outlets, including the shooter. So I'll just repeat that. The Butler County District Attorney now being quoted in a number of media outlets reporting that President Trump was grazed by a bullet and that 2 individuals are dead, including the shooter. As I say, although this is coming apparently from a reputable source in terms of the Butler County District Attorney, we're still very soon after this incident, and details can emerge that change that tally. So we'll just go with quoting what an official is saying at this point, but clearly the fact that the shooter is down would, to some degree, indicate that the immediate threat has been dealt with. It doesn't necessarily mean, of course, that there isn't still a wider threat, that there were not others that may have had knowledge of what was about to go down, that may have even been there, that may have offered some kind of material assistance to this shooter. But the other news, if confirmed, from the Butler County District Attorney, that another person has been killed, would indicate perhaps someone from the rally, because that other fatality is not being described as the shooter or indeed a suspect.
Indeed. Roger Gewolb, you've spent time with Donald Trump. He looks defiant there as he raises his fist in the air. He will no doubt leverage this for political gain. That is the nature of Donald Trump. He's an iconoclastic figure and no stranger to a bit of attention. But is this a setback for him personally? Could it impact his confidence, his demeanour, that famous persona of his?
It's not particularly iconoclastic behavior for American politics, I have to say, first of all. And no, I don't think it will dent his confidence, or at least not very much. I think it will very possibly embolden him. The one word that a lot of people I know who know President Trump, but in America, a president is always called president for life. So, we've got President Reagan, so he's still President Trump. Everybody uses one word to describe him, and that word is resilience. He has a resilience that is just unbelievable. It's not of this world. So, no, I don't see him being shattered or weakened, probably emboldened, probably using it for political capital as might be a little bit distasteful in Britain, but in America, it's part of the game. And any politician would see this as an opportunity, frankly, and they would use the hell out of it. I mean, they would play it for all it's worth.
Will this attack encourage those who might not have supported Donald Trump to vote for him in November? Does what happened tonight make it more likely that he becomes president again?
I think so, definitely, yeah.